Hey guys, Nike here. Let's talk about the End of Dragons Elite Spec for Necromancer. When I was polling people on what they felt the most likely weapons for Necro to get, the consensus was either sword or shield. I think those do indeed make the most sense because the alternative would be a ranged weapon, and I just think that a longbow or rifle Necromancer would be really strange and pretty unsatisfying. That said, if the underwater weapon theory is correct, a harpoon gun for Necro on land would be pretty weird, actually. So let's pretend that doesn't happen. So sword or shield. Considering that Scourge has evolved in PvE anyway into a support heal spec, shield, which would probably be inherently defensive or inherently supportive, would be quite odd for the next spec. And quite frankly, an offhand as an elite spec weapon is always a tad underwhelming. And that leaves sword. And I think sword, of course, would be the most popular possibility, especially since Necromancer offhand weapons are already quite good. Though we should consider the possibility that Necromancer will get sword as a main hand and as an offhand, which, of course, would be by far the most popular option. Only because of the amount of skills you get via Shroud, that I suspect Necro will only get sword as a main hand, however. But let's talk about what roles potentially the Necro spec could fill. Necro has a power DPS spec and Reaper. Scourge exists either as a con damage spec or a support heal spec. So this doesn't leave a lot of room for a new spec, nor does Necro as a support buff class make a lot of sense. So it's highly likely that we will get some overlap with the old specs, but most likely with a radically different sort of playstyle. The idea of a new Necro spec being highly mobile is quite interesting since it's a radical departure for the class, which has always been sort of like the slow and lumbering brute. A lot of short-range teleports or gap closer teleports on weapons or utilities would be a quite interesting change for Necro. Think a theme sort of where Necro can open quick portals to the underworld and come out on the other side closer to the enemy. A model for the skills could be akin to something from Guild Wars Factions that the Thief had with their Shadow Steps, like Shadow Prison, where you gap close and then immobilize or CC the target. We've seen that effect replicated a little bit with the Thief Steel plus Basilisk Venom before, and it's quite potent in PvP. How that would play out in PvE is unclear since gap closers aren't exactly a huge deal there. Another possible theme would be sort of a demon summoner. The Oni in Guild Wars Factions were demons who were corrupted by Canaxi, and as you would walk through the world, they would teleport in and ambush you with no warning. A Demonmancer Invoker spec who could, like, say, spend life force to summon powerful Oni minions, and each of your multiple F skills or whatever could summon a different type of minion that had some different type of utility. It would be a really interesting spec for me to have a Minion Mancer, but you didn't just run around with a train of minions. You summoned them as needed, and they did something and then went away. And they cost you life force because, of course, you have to give some of your soul to bring the demons here, yada, yada, yada. That's enough roleplay. The last idea plays sort of on a Guild Wars 1 ritualist with the Ashes skills. Essentially, the Ashes skills were items that your character could hold, and while holding them, they gave you a passive buff like more HP or more armor or something like that. But what you could do is you could use them as an active skill and drop them and shatter the urn and put the skill on cooldown to get a very big effect. Using urns to summon your dead powerful ancestors to do powerful death magic does sound very Necromancer-y to me. It could be replicated quite well with kits, and your Shroud being some sort of ancestor form like Captain Planet that does some interesting stuff. But anyway, this is all very speculative and a lot of guessing, and but I think in summation, I think we can be reasonably confident in main hand sword. But like everything else, we'll have to wait and see for ANET to start teasing these. That's basically my thoughts on Necromancer and the elite spec that they might get. Give me your thoughts below. Let me know. I'd like to hear it. So thank you guys for watching so much, and I will definitely see you next time.